How we doing? How's career day been for you? You hear from some good people? Cool. Okay. My goal with this talk is to make sure that y'all take the stuff that I have and apply it to whatever career that you want to chase. Because my stuff's very applicable in pretty much every category. But let me ask you a question. How many of y'all heard of me or knew who I was before you read about me in that little booklet? Ouch. Okay, we got some work to do. Okay, let me tell you a couple of points about me, and then we'll get into why I'm here, and then we'll get into the talk. First things foremost, I'm an author. I wrote that little book right there. It's called Make Life Your Business. It's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all major online book retailers. It's got some pretty good reviews so far. I'm very happy about that, very thankful for that. And it's changed some people's lives. So that goes along with my overall goal of what I'm here for today. I am a host of a podcast. I do a podcast every day, 5 days a week. It goes up every morning. It's called the James Peterson Audio Diary, and I talk about success, fulfillment, happiness, attitude, and a bunch of other things. I am a KM graduate. I graduated in the year 2008, so about 10 years ago. I think I sat in that chair right there. Is there a piece of purple gum underneath that? Don't look under there. That's probably way more than you want to see. And then right now, most of my time is taken up with working with the Microsoft Mailing Center in order to increase their productivity. So that's what I'm doing. That's a little bit about me, who I am, and what I'm here for. Why am I here? Ever since I was about 5 years old, I watched tape of Garth Brooks. And if you don't know who Garth Brooks is, it's perfectly okay. But I watched a tape with him. He was a country musician. And I was mesmerized, just absolutely drawn in by his performance. And I thought, I want to do something like that. And so I've been fascinated with how people become what it is they become. And that kind of leads me into the first point here. I want to write some words up on the board. I want you to take a minute and look at them and just see what kind of comes to mind. Those words: success, wealth, happiness. What do they make you think about? What kind of goes on in your mind when you think about these words? Each one of you, every single one of you here, is going to have a different definition of what those words mean to you. But no matter what, each and every one of you, when you read those words, they do one thing. They get your attention. And attention is the first thing that I want to talk about today. I believe attention management is the new time management for the era that we live in. Everything is coming at us all the time. We're always getting text notifications and notifications from other apps that we have. And it's more important now than ever to be able to focus and keep our attention locked on what we want it to be locked on. When it comes to time management, how many of you guys have been talked to by a teacher or a leader of some kind about managing your time effectively? Using it to take time to do your homework or whatever that may be. Okay. Let me ask you a different question. Can you really control time? That clock up there ticks 60 seconds no matter what you're doing. I find it fascinating, and you probably experienced this too, how one day when you're out with your friends and laughing and joking and having a great time, time seems to fly by. But there are other times, possibly when you're doing your homework, that time seems to drag on. How is that? How is it that those 60 seconds can pass at the same rate no matter what you're doing, but time feels so different? Let me ask you a question. How much for you is a long time? What's a long time to you? Now, okay? What's a long time to you? Okay? What's a long time to you?
Depends on the situation I'm in. So years, probably.
Okay.
Years.
How is it that we can go from hours to years for just one definition of time? It's not time, it's attention. What we give our attention to gets our time. How many of y'all have ever seen a YouTube video? Watched one? How many times has this happened? You open up one YouTube video thinking that's all you're going to watch, and then 20 minutes later, you're watching a rhino learn how to tap dance. It's happened. What gets your attention gets your time. And I'm here to talk to you about attention management. I've been fascinated, like I said, about how people become what they become. How can somebody spend all of their attention focused on playing t-ball and then softball, college ball, and then one day they become a professional baseball player, while another, in a completely different category, given the same 24 hours in a day, can read and study and intern and continue to go to college for years and one day become a medical doctor? Two people, very valuable to society in their own ways, two completely different fields. Swap them and put them in opposite categories or in their opposite fields, and they'll fall flat on their faces, because what you give your attention to gets your time. And I want you to remember this when it comes to comparison about doing other things. If you measure a fish by how well he climbs up a tree, you'll think he's an idiot. Think about that the next time you're in a situation where you're not the expert at something. I want to talk to you about goals. How many people do you know, and it's probably happened, you probably know at least one person who wanted to be something different when they were young compared to what they are now? I've known and asked plenty of people this question. I knew somebody who wanted to be an astronaut, and nowadays they're a recruiter at a firm. How do you go from astronaut to recruiter? Not to, disparage either career, but how does that change? I'm fascinated with that. And when it comes to achieving your goals, this is not something you're going to hear about from anybody, but this is something that I've come to realize, and I want to share it with you. The number one reason people do not achieve their goals is because they don't give them enough attention. Giving your focus to your goals all the time is the number one way to achieve them. And I want to give you the first practical tip of this talk, which is I want you to write your goals down twice a day. Now, how many of you have a piece of paper you can write on right now? Everybody got one? I want you to write down, take a second, and write down your top goal. Don't limit yourself. I want you to write down the goal that you have for your entire life, something that you want to do in your life. One of the biggest goals that you have. Don't limit yourself. Don't think about anybody who told you you can't do it. Write down that goal. Take a second, write that down right now. All right, does everybody have something written down? Okay. Now, the first practical tip I want to give you in this talk is this. I want you to do this every day, twice a day. I want you to write down your goals as soon as you wake up, and I want you to write them down as soon as you go to bed, right before you go to bed. The reason for this is because we need to focus our attention on our goals in order to achieve them. And that starts in the morning as soon as you wake up. When your mind is on your goals, you act differently, you behave differently, and you think differently. When your goals are written down right before you go to bed, you sleep and you dream about these things, or your mind goes to work on how you're going to achieve them. Focusing your attention on your goals is the number one way to achieve them, and I'll give you a perfect example. In 2000, The British rowing team at the Sydney Olympics decided to make a change in their history. They wanted to win. They wanted to win gold. And so what they did was they came up with one question that dictated every decision that they made between that particular point and the Olympics. That question was, will it make the boat go faster? If you got offered a donut, will it make the boat go faster? If the answer was no, they didn't eat it. Get invited out to a party the night before practice, will it make the boat go faster? If the answer was no, they didn't do it. The British rowing team went out and flat out dominated the competition and won gold that year because they had every decision focused on that goal. And they used something that I talk about a lot in that book, which is the use of questions. And questions are powerful because they direct your attention. How many questions have I already asked you guys just in these last 10 minutes? Quite a few. Directing your attention. Now, the quality of questions matters. If you ask a poor quality question, you're going to get a poor quality answer from your brain. If I ask, why does this always have to happen to me? My brain's going to come up with an answer regardless of whether it's true, and it's going to tell you, well, because you're an idiot. On the opposite side of that, if I ask, how can I learn from this situation? My brain's going to come up with a completely different answer. So in order to control your attention, you got to come up with a question, and you got to come up with more than one. So I encourage you to, one, find your will it make the boat go faster, to keep your mind focused on what you want to achieve in life. But also, come up with a list of questions you can ask yourself to change your mood. Things happen. Life happens, and things don't always go according to plan. It's how you ask questions to yourself that make the difference. Now, that's in relation to success in achieving what you want to achieve. How many of you want to achieve great things in life but don't want to earn as much as you deserve? All right, no hands are going up. Time for point number 2. How many of you in this room have wanted somebody else to do something for you in some way, shape, or form in your life? Everybody should be raising your hand because even when you were a baby and you were crying and you were hungry, you wanted them to feed you. Every single person in this room, whether you realize it or not, is a salesperson. Because you've wanted something and you needed to sell somebody else on why they should do it for you. Now, sales and persuasion, it's a kind of an interchangeable word. And sales kind of has an interesting stigma. But I'm here to change that. If you want a job, and I hope each and every one of you wants a job outside of these 4 walls. Maybe not right away. Maybe college is in your future. If it is, great. You're going to need a job afterwards. Others of you might be going into the job force as soon as you leave this school. No matter what, you need to sell the person that you're talking to at the company that you want to work at on why you're the best candidate to work there. If you do not sell them, you do not get the job. So how do we become good salespeople? How do we persuade and influence somebody to get us to do what we want them to do? The first tip that I can give you is be 100% sold yourself on whatever it is that you want. How many of you have a product or have something in your life that you tell everybody about, that you want everybody to know about and think everybody should use? Anybody have a product like that they believe in that much? What is it for you? Okay. For me, I'm a member at Best Buy, so I have the Best Buy credit card. That particular card I tell everybody about because it does so many good things for you and allows you to do so many things and own so many things that you wouldn't normally be able to own right away. And I have conviction in my voice when I tell people about this. And I hope I have conviction in my voice right now when I'm talking about the things that I find important and I want you guys to learn. I've converted 3 or 4 people in the past 3 months that it's a good idea that they should get the Best Buy credit card if they can. And that's just one thing. I was sold, I needed to sell somebody right out of high school. I needed to sell my first employer about why I was a good fit for the position that they were offering. And if I did not believe in myself, I wouldn't have gotten there. But before we get there, just want to pre-frame that a little bit. I needed to sell Mr. Radford in order to be here today. I needed to sit down and have a conversation with him about why it was a good idea for me to be here and me to talk to you guys. I sat down and talked to him. I gave him a look at my book. I talked to him about the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And if it wasn't for me paying attention to what he wanted, I would not be here. Which leads me into point number 2, which is know the results that you provide beyond, just what you want. So I'm going to give you a phrase that I learned in a book, believe it or not, called Promote, because we need to promote what it is that we can do, what results we can provide. So this phrase that I learned, and I want you to write this down once I'm done writing it. This will help you help other people get what they want. I am responsible for blank, which resulted in blank. This phrase is the elegant way to promote yourself, because there's 2 ways to promote yourself. You can promote yourself arrogantly or elegantly. The arrogant version is, I am the greatest thing to ever happen in the world. Okay, why? Well, I don't know. That's not a way to promote yourself. But if I, like in my position, with working in the Microsoft Mailing Center, I can go to my boss and tell him I am responsible for increasing the speed in which the product gets to our employees, which results in a 25% increase in productivity. All of a sudden, my value goes way up because I know exactly what results I'm providing. Now, like I said earlier, in having to sell somebody else over the phone, selling my first employer, I didn't know what results I provided because I didn't have any experience at all. I went to work right after I got out of here. Senior year, gone, started working that next summer. I wanted to work at a particular place, and so I got a phone interview, and I needed to sell him on me. And first of all, I was already sold on myself, but I needed to sell him on why I was a good candidate when I had no experience. But everybody in this room has the same 2 things that I did when I made that phone call, which was I had enthusiasm and work ethic. Every single one of you in this room can provide those 2 things to any employer outside of these 4 walls. Because you can bring a work ethic and you can bust your tail and make that place better. And you can bring a great attitude. You can bring enthusiasm. You can change the team or help improve it without having any skills at all. So this phrase will come in very handy when you're drawing up a resume or anything where you need to provide somebody with why you are valuable. That sentence will come in handy, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but it will come in handy somewhere in your life. The last thing I want to talk about with sales is people do things for their reasons, not ours. What I said when I was talking to Mr. Radford, I needed to convince him on why it was a good idea for me to speak here according to why it was a good idea for him, not because of me. I remember I tried to sell a camera on eBay, and I was thinking about how funny it would be if I wrote down, and I've seen these, which scares me. I've seen listings for products, and it says, I want to sell this so I can buy a nice car one day. That doesn't make me want to buy the product. If I'm looking at a product, I want the description of the product. I want why it's going to matter to me. So when I was selling my camera, I made sure to focus on that particular thing, which was, this camera will provide you the opportunity to record some of the most important memories of your life and then be able to replay them and show future generations. For somebody who's buying a camera, that's a lot more intriguing than me just wanting a nice car. People do things for their reasons, not ours. And I'm going to tell you this story just because I think it's funny. One of the things that I've learned, I guess that wasn't the last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to sales. Sales are made, persuasion is done from agreement, not disagreement. If you want to persuade somebody, you better agree with them rather than disagree with them. And here's a good example why. I went to Best Buy. I'm fascinated by drones and I really wanted to get one. So I went to the store, I went to Best Buy, grabbed the drone off the shelf, brought it up to the front desk, and I said, I want to buy it. Set it down. Lady goes through the process. And she says, okay, sir, how would you like to pay? And I said, I'd like to use my card. She goes, actually, sir, there's a cash rebate going on, and I think it'd be a better option for you to pay cash. How are you going to tell me how to pay? I'm like, no, it's okay. I really want to use my card. She's like, no, sir, this cash rebate option is probably a better option for you, so I think we should, we could take the cash. I said, let me go grab one more thing. I took the drone, took it off the counter, walked back to the shelf, set it on the shelf, and left the store. She disagreed with the way that I wanted to buy the particular product. I went to a Best Buy down the street, different one. Grabbed the drone, walked over to the counter, set it down, said, I want to buy this drone. She goes, okay. Rings me up, goes through the processes. She goes, okay, how would you like to pay? I said, I'd like to use my card. She says, sounds like a great idea. You can finance it. You won't have to pay for it all up front, and then you can get out and play with this thing. I'm like, I like this person. Halfway through, I thought about the fact that I was getting a tax refund, and I thought, man, I kind of want to pay cash. Now I feel like a jerk. So I stopped the process, and I'm like, hey, I hate to do this to you, but I kind of want to pay cash. I thought about something I didn't think about earlier. She goes, you know what? That's an even better idea. Let me back out of this process. We'll get you to pay cash. You can pay for it all up front right now, and you can go out and play with this thing. The most important thing right now is for you to go out and have fun with that thing. I tell everybody about that experience at that particular Best Buy because of that principle. She agreed with whatever I wanted, no matter how many times I changed my mind. I used this principle the last time I wanted somebody to help me move. I called up my buddy and I'm like, hey, I need you to help me move. And he's like, I don't really want to do that. It's hot outside and I just don't want to do it. I said, I know, dude, you're right. It sucks. I don't want to move either. It's hot outside. I totally get it. I just need your help for a few hours. He goes, nah, I get that. He goes, I just don't want to do it. I'm tired. I'm like, you're right. I bet you are tired. You're totally right. Moving's not going to be super fun, but you know what? I want to hang out with you. I want us to have fun, and I'll tell you what, I'll buy you lunch afterwards. Okay. Agreements liquidate problems. Disagreements only exacerbate them. An agreement is how I got him to help me move. So in order to be a salesperson, in order to be a good salesperson, start with agreement. Start with yes and. It's a tip that I learned from improv, believe it or not. Build on what the person says, don't negate it. Anytime you tell somebody that you want something and the person says no, how do you feel? How are you going to tell me what I want? Agree with the person no matter what it is that they want, and you'll be a lot closer to making the sale. Now, last thing I want to talk about. We've got success, we've got wealth. But how many of you want those two things? How many of you want to be completely successful in any area of life that you want? And how many of you want all the money in the world, but how many of you want to be miserable? All right, nobody's raising their hand. Time for point number 3. I want to talk to you about happiness, because happiness is elusive. Not many people are happy more often than they're not. And it's something I learned. I've read about it. I've read about attitude. I've read about happiness. And the one thing that I've learned more than anything when it comes to being happy is one skill, and one skill I want to talk to you about, which is gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote to fear and anger, the two emotions that mess us up more than anything. If we're afraid, we're not grateful. If you're afraid, you're not grateful for the opportunity. But if you're grateful for the opportunity, you're no longer afraid. If you're grateful for the experience, no matter how bad or traumatic, then you're no longer angry instead of being angry about the circumstance. And I learned real young to be grateful for the opportunities that I'm given. But before I get to the reason why, I want to talk to you about the practice that I learned how to be grateful on a consistent basis. It's a 10-minute exercise. I do it every morning. And it's something, if you take only one piece of this, you'll be happier on a more consistent basis. Which is this. I spend 3 minutes thinking about how grateful I am for every single person in my life, starting with my family, moving out to my friends, and slowly a progressive circle out to people that I don't even know. I was grateful for the opportunity to speak to you guys before I even knew who you were or saw you, because I thought about that this morning. After I sit with that for 3 minutes and think about each of those people, the next 3 minutes, I think about all of the positive energy, all the beauty out in the world, and I let it just kind of flow towards me. It's new agey, I don't really care. It makes me feel good. But I just feel all the positivity. I hear the birds chirping. I hear all of the just wonderful things about life. And I enjoy that, and I feel it just flow towards me, and it makes me so happy and so grateful to be alive. The last 3 minutes I spend thinking about 3 things that I want to achieve within the next year, and how grateful I am for the opportunity, because not everybody gets that opportunity. And I learned this very young. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting on the couch. My mom was about 5 feet away from me, playing on the computer. I was 12 years old. And the phone rings. Now, we screened all of our calls because we hate solicitors. So we let it go to voicemail. Phone rings, phone rings, phone rings. The voice on the other end of the answering machine is a voice that I haven't heard in over a year. It's the dad in a family that were friends of ours. He was calling to tell us that his little girls, one age 12 and one age 8, went out with their cousin and their grandma. Their grandma took them out to the lake. They were out playing, laughing, joking, having a great time. Jumping in, swimming around, doing their thing. Grandma says, it's time to go. It's time to leave. They say, one more, one more, one more. All right, Grandma says, okay, one more. 3 kids line up on the dock. 12-year-old that's my age, the 8-year-old girl, and the cousin. 3 kids jump in. 2 come up. The 12-year-old that's my age and the cousin come up. The 8-year-old doesn't. This phone call, hours after the fact, was to tell us that they still hadn't found her. In the blink of an eye, life can be gone. We only go around this big blue ball one time, and you don't know when it ends. So every day that we spend angry, upset, ungrateful for the opportunity that we've been given is one day we don't get back, and you don't know when you're going to be done. Everything in life is happening for you, not to you. Every opportunity, every disagreement, every upsetting situation, every challenge, every difficulty is happening for you to help you become the person that you're supposed to be. It's not happening to you. Too many people worry about, oh, this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me, and that's why I'm not happy. These situations, these difficulties, these trials, these goods, these bads, they help you become who you're meant to be. And my hope for you is that you choose to be grateful for every opportunity, every difficulty, because if you find gratitude in the biggest challenge, you can overcome it. If it wasn't for these 3 skills, then I would not have gotten past this last circumstance that happened most recently. 20 years ago, I met a boy in 2nd grade, and we became friends. And our friendship grew through elementary school, through junior high, through high school, even out of high school. He went off to college, I went off to work, but he came back and I was still local. From 21 to 22 and a half, we spent every weekend together. Me, him, and 2 other guys. 4 guys going out, hanging out every weekend, having the greatest times of our life. Some of the best memories that I have in my life so far. I'm 28, just so you all know. For the past 6 years after that, we've gone back and forth with how often we hang out, but our friendship has continued to grow over time. Last January, we get a message. Me and a couple of friends get a message from this guy saying, "Hey guys, I love you like brothers. You know, thank you just for being there closer than some of my family has been." I respond back, "I love you too, dude." And after that, I've been removed from all of his social media. He won't answer any of my calls, won't answer any of my texts. And if I was not a master at managing my attention, I'd focus on everything that I could have possibly done wrong that would have driven him away. If I wasn't sold myself on my ability and who I am as a person and who I am as a friend, I would have felt bad and thought that I could have done more and thought that I wasn't enough to be his friend anymore. And if I wasn't grateful for the opportunity that I had to create the memories that I did with him, because they're some of the greatest memories of my life, then I would be miserable. I would be somewhere else physically, emotionally, and mentally right now than I am today. But I can stand before you and tell you I'm as happy as I've ever been, because I've learned that these 3 skills are important. And I hope that from this talk, I've inspired you to pursue the life that you want to pursue, and use these skills in order to get there. Thank you.